had my car get repaired once and they had a repair on it. And they had crank windows. I had my finger on the car. What was that? They had no idea.
I hate to tell you, they work better than the push, but they're faster.
Exactly. It's that you use your elbow.
You know, my grandfather said, I asked him, why don't you have air conditioning? He says, open the window, I'll blow the air you want.
Yeah, I remember those days. Well, that went too far off. It's funny.
I think those days were
They were simpler. Wasn't so complicated. You know, it's also, I used to, when I started working, I was an outside salesman, so let's see if I time wise.
I understand about
Come on, Josh. Right now we're talking. It's okay.
the fax machine. You used to have to be able to wait for something. Now you get it even faster. They don't even use the fax anymore. They just email.
Yeah, of course, fax.
I've seen you're also on Travel Club, so that's a good sign.
No, I also have my see, because I look at this. It's so marked up. I don't know what that is. My kids are going to find maybe one day they'll put it together and make it safe.
Mm-hmm. Why not? Why not?
You know what I'm saying? The way they'll get it edited and they'll smooth out the language. You know?
Yep.
Why not?
Many hundreds once.
Amen.
You know what? Nobody don't know. See, every shop is some
Jay, good morning. You said good morning to me before, but I was on the phone with my son in Israel. So I'm sorry for not answering it.
It sounded like it was a young man's voice. I figured it was his son. Yeah. I remember those. I had to get the call in. Shabbos starts to get early.
Right.
How's he doing?
He's good. He just doesn't know a lot of I don't knows.
Yeah.
A lot of unknowns. But it's hard for him. It's hard for
I'm
him.
telling you, the camera's on fine, so.
Oh, I'm being recorded?
Yeah, you're being recorded. I'm not talking about anything, but that's the time. It's good. Start to figure things out a little bit. And also, then I'm home. Like, you're not there to just take care of it. Actually, that's self-aligned. That's first time I recorded a year, a couple of years. All right, should be good, that's all.
She told me she was going to take it.
What's going on? All right.
Okay.
Okay, we're returning to Ayaka. Let's do a little bit of Chazara, just to return to the Inyan. On page, we'll go back just a few paragraphs to page Sadikei. We'll start that parak again. It's been a while. We had just reached the top of Tzadik Vav, but let's just go quickly back into the Inyan. Ashorish la'ahavas hakesef v'chein l'she'ifreis acheres she'enin yodes gvul. What's the root of all of this love that people have, excitement over money and stuff? And the she'ifas, they're all different she'ifas, all different longings, aspirations, and hopes. That any other school that don't have any boundaries. It's the deep hidden longing for Ein Sof, for the infinite one, for Hashem. That's where it comes from. That's why in certain ways we see this. Now, by Jews, there's one of the things that makes us very unpopular with our enemies is how successful we are. They don't like that. The Jews are successful. That's not to say that we don't have our share of poor people over the years. We've had plenty of tzaras. But historically, wherever we've gone, and particularly in modern times, Jews are successful. And there is there is truth to that ambition that Jews have. That there is a certain underlying motivation, ambition to be successful in things of this world. And because nobody has a greater connection to the Ein Sof, to the infinite one, than a Jew. So the infinite longing for something which is finite is the cause of the sadness of this world, which we'll talk about in that piece from Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Chalab. We'll learn a little bit more on that. But that's where the Shifa comes from. A drive, ambition. It comes because the soul comes from a place with no limits. The neshama is with no limits. HaNeshama shalanu hein chelik elokam yimal. Our neshama is a chelik elokam yimal. It's a presence of elokus within us. Mishtal shalai is hein or elokus that comes from the or of elokus. Shu or ein sofi, which is infinite. HaNeshama shalanu avaksha is lias kamaisai. And the neshama's greatest longing is to be able to experience, to be part and engulfed in that Ein Sofius, the infinite, something beyond this world. K'mar makar shemenu hein bo. Hein chashos es ha'Ein Sofius shel ha'or Elokim. The neshama feels that infinite light of God, and therefore the neshama wants very much to be free of all that's holding it and restraining it and limiting it. The neshama is unlimited, and all it wants is to be part of that mitzias that's Ein Sof. That's what the neshama wants. As we spoke about before the summer, the mashal that Chazal give about the Bas Melech, the princess, and whatever she marries the city guy, whatever the city guy gives her and buys her presents, it's nefesh lo t'maleh. The soul of the princess is not filled because her soul comes from the palace, from the king. It's not satisfied with a couple of trinkets. Even if the trinkets are worth $1 billion, the soul comes from someplace else. The princess comes from a different reality. The lo gvulus v'tzimtzumim. Therefore, the soul finds any gvulos, any boundaries and restraints and tzimtzum and constrictions. The soul suffers from that terribly. The soul that can't bear that. The soul just wants to be unfettered and free. Ela shetzukas haneshama mekanenes amoik b'seich halev u'mishaderes rak yiratzon amum u'bulti muzbar. The problem is that the neshama, this longing of the soul for Hashem, for the infinite, is not identified as something which is spiritual. In some people it is, when they come to that place. But it's not identified as something spiritual. It's only felt as this raw longing and need for something great and for freedom and not to be limited in any way. לכן כל אדם מתרגם את שטריה של נשמתו לפי אמריס המידה ומושגי החיים נמצאים בדעתו ובתפיסת חייו. Therefore, every person interprets this need, this longing, this unbelievable drive to be unrestrained and to be free. Every person interprets that according to what they're familiar with. So, for one person, it means to be unlimited in the amount of money that he can spend, to be unlimited to the places of world in the world he can visit, to be unlimited in how much food he can eat. Whatever, every person. Then you have in Ruchnius. When a person comes into the truth of Ein Sof, it's in Ruchnius. But it's So each person is called Adam Metagimus Daresh. It means the broadcast of the neshama. The neshama is broadcasting chofesh, freedom, infinity. That's what the neshama is broadcasting. But every person receives that broadcast in his or her own machine. So some have a transistor radio, if you remember that, or a boom box. You remember those? You receive the broadcast in your kli. So if your kli is, financial security and success, that's your kli. That's your appliance. That's your machine. So then you become crazy to have unlimited money, unlimited success in business, unlimited access to things of this world. That's how you receive the broadcast according to the kli. There's a certain broadcast that's going out from the neshama for infinity, for that unrestrained, unlimited infinity. That's the broadcast that's coming out, the baskal that's coming out from the neshama. How you pick up that, how you receive that broadcast is according to your kelim. That's each person. That's what he says. But the broadcast is essentially the same. Not to be mugbal, not to be limited. Not to have any restraints or limitations. That's the broadcast. That's the basic broadcast. But by many people, by most people, the kli with which they receive this broadcast of infinity, the kli is something which is very physical, and therefore that they interpret or they hear that message coming from the soul of Ein Sof. They hear that on the playing field of Olam Hazeh, of this world. Hachomri. Therefore, Bnei Adam alulum l'targim as hashifil Ein Sof la'amos midah chomrius. Therefore, many people will interpret that sound, that noise inside of wanting and ambition, of motivation, of excitement, of having. They'll interpret it in a very physical way. Ikan ba'at shuka ela kesef, which we spoke about that. The word kesef itself means kisuf, which means longing. The word kesef, because that's the most common thing that a person, that is natural in this world to long for, to want to be successful in. So kesef, more kesef. From here comes this tremendous shukah for kesef, where a person will spend his entire life missing out and ignoring the things that in the end are most important. And I know I read someplace, somebody from here showed me that some years ago that they were interviewing some of the wealthiest people in the world. They were already very old, and they all expressed when they were asked, "What do you regret most?" So none of them said, "I regret that I didn't get the other building I wanted." Besides, owning Tokyo or something, I didn't get the other building. Nobody said such a thing. Every single one of them said that I didn't spend enough time with my family, that I didn't go to church. That's what they were expressing. That it wasn't another conquest of this world that they felt that they were missing. Because as the body weakens, as the fixation on physical pleasure, as that success, as that weakens, you begin to hear the voice of the neshama. You begin to understand that broadcast for what it is, and then you feel it. Nefesh al Timalei. And then you turn around. You're already 70, 75 years old, and your grandchildren don't even know who you are. Your wife already left you a long time ago. Your kids, whatever, and you were busy with making more money and doing other stuff, and that was and always saying, "I just want my kids to be happy," and your kids are happy somewhere else, nothing to do with you. Whether they're happy, that's a big suffix. These people usually bring more unhappiness into the world. But then you begin to hear as the body weakens, or like when God forbid a person is sick, and the body is not well, they begin to hear the more accurate broadcast, because the kli, the transistor is not working, the radio is not working in the usual way. So you begin to hear the transmission of the neshama. Dafki, when the body doesn't work, you hear a better broadcast. It comes out clear because it's the neshama, it's the soul. And even on some level, even someone who's not Jewish has such a created b'tzelem Elokim, is in the image of God, and there are broadcasts that he gets. Again, he doesn't need to daven 3 times a day or whatever it is to fill himself, but he does sof kol sof, he's in God's image, and there are broadcasts that he's getting as well, but never ever as strong as a Jew. And that's why Jews are so ambitious, and that's why our enemies can't stand that about us. This need for success and so on. It's true. Because the neshama is broadcasting, sending that message of being unrestrained, of being free. And to the mind of an average person in this world, being free means being financially successful. Because then I don't have to worry about I'll be free to eat what I want. I'll be free to be able to buy what I want, to go where I want. I'll be free. And in many cultures, and in certain ways in ours as well, I'm free to marry who I want. So you can marry somebody. You can marry. If you're wealthy, you'll get a better shidduch. Whatever's called a better shidduch. But you feel that with this I'll be free. I'll be free to marry who I want. I'll be free to live in the kind of house that I want. It'll give me that freedom, and so that the kisufim of this world are for financial success and financial security, because really what the neshama wants more than anything is chayvus, because Ein Sof means that I'm not bound by this world. I'm free. I'm not held back by anything. So I don't want to be held back. If I'd like to visit Eretz Yisrael 3 times a year, if I'd like to be able to have an extra couple of bedrooms, I like to have to go out to eat in a restaurant once in a while or something, which nowadays you have to already pay hundreds of dollars to go someplace. So the way that you're going to have that freedom is by getting more money. That's how you hear it. Money will make you free. That's the broadcast as it's understood and received in the kli of a person who's very, very much attached to this world. Money means you can get things done. You can do stuff. That's what money means. You have money, you can get things done. And how do we understand yicholos? Yicholos means the ability to do something. Yicholos means that I'm not blocked. I'm not being held back. That's what yicholos. I'm able to do this. I'm able to go to Eretz Yisrael and stay in a nice hotel. I'm able to even go and buy a place for myself in Eretz Yisrael. How? With money. So it's very, very simple. I'm able to send my kid to this school. How? With money. So it's understood that yicholas, the ability to accomplish things in this world, ability always means I can do this, as opposed to I can't do this. I can means that the border has been lifted, the restraint has been taken away. I can do this. I can afford to send my kid to this camp. I can afford to go on this trip. It means I can. So over time, the person learns that through money, I can. I can is the opposite of I can't. I can't means that there are boundaries. The soul can't bear any boundaries or restraints, and therefore it's natural that people associate money with freedom. I'm free. I'm free to do what I want. I have the cholas to do things. While all the like the shlubs are waiting with their cars, online, 20 cars online, like to valet. There's another guy that flashes a $50 bill, and yes, sir, of course, sir. And they put the car right over there on the side. See you in a little while, sir. And all the shlubs are there online waiting, and they watch this guy go in to the building of the simcha, whatever it is, and his car is taken somewhere right next to the place to be. And so from a very early age, people begin to think that this is, if I have money, as an yachol, then I don't have to wait online. I have money, I could do these things. I could just go in and out. I don't have to hang around. So it's a very simple understanding of that broadcast, and it's the one that the world is most familiar with, and it's taken very seriously. And used to go to Wall Street. I remember many years ago, we had like this class trip when I was a kid. They took us to Wall Street we had some social studies or economics class. I don't remember what it was. But they took us to the stock market because we were learning about the stock. We were studying about the stock market. So the teacher took us to the stock market, which we didn't really care about. But there was some pizza shop that was just opened over there nearby. So we were able to go to the stock market. But I remember they took us to this place. I don't know if it's this. They took us, and the people were standing there screaming and yelling the whole time. You know, what's it called? The traders. They took us to that, and I never saw such a thing. It was screaming and yelling. And the teacher was explaining to us from this like gallery what's going on over here. What is this? You don't see this by Neil or such a thing. What's going on there? But he's screaming and yelling. It's happening. Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokim. That's what was happening. That's right. Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokim. That's what they're yelling. They don't know that they're yelling that. They really, the neshama wants to scream at Hashem Elokim. This guy's screaming, whatever, a number for oil, for sugar, or chais, whatever they're doing over there. I'm still not sure how that works. But that screaming and yelling. These people come home and it must feel like when you come up from a chasna these days. With the loud music, you can't talk to anybody. You go like that the whole day also. It's unbelievable. But this is what gives a person a feeling of ani yachol. I can. I have the money. I can pay the rent. I can live in my place. I like this place. Ani yachol. And that's what the neshama wants. Yicholas, freedom to do what it wants. But this is how it's interpreted. Misha ein lo kesef hu mugbal kivyachol. If you don't have money, if you don't have kesef, kisu, from the object of your longing, which is money, if you don't have that, then you're mugbal. Then you can't buy the food that you like. You can't go to the restaurant. You can't pay the rent. You're mugbal. You can't send your kid to that place. It's mugbal. Kivyachol. Kil mishav machamim shel yesh gvul. But if you have money, ain't no mugbal. Then you're not mugbal. This is great. I can do what I want. So you could buy whatever you want. And all of advertising, that whole industry of marketing and advertising is to play on that. They're smart people. It's all the psychology of marketing. It's all big goodness of how to make put this person into such a mindset that even that atayachol knows you could have this. If you could have this, you could do this, and like this kind of thinking that not only can you have this, you must have this. You must have this. Like a child that will watch a commercial on the television and it starts having a tantrum because you saw on the television some toy. And you make your parents crazy that you have to have this toy, and they know how to do that. Not just with children. With children, it's no, but with the adults, how they sell that, how they do that. That you must have this. You must have this, and you can. And then if you don't have it, of course you're miserable. But all that comes from this need to be free and unlimited and to do whatever you want. Of course, there's a lot of good in that. There's a tremendous amount of good in that, but there's also terrible danger. Chavayazu, this experience, lias mishi achol hakol mibchina kaspis, hi me'ein chavaya meduma shel ein sof. This experience of having unlimited money, just having whatever you want, is a tiny little me'ain, a taste of Ein Sof, of Ein Sof. And that's why, I mentioned many times over the years, but the Alter Rebbe says that in modern days, the worship of the ancient worship of the sun is the worship of money. Because in those days, back in the old days, they worshipped the sun because they understood that the sun, from the sun I have everything. Because that's the farmers, the sun, all life, they saw that all life comes from the sun. So they worshipped it. The Alter Rebbe says that in our times, the worship of money is like the equivalent of the ancient worship of the sun. So we laugh at people. What kind of idiots are they bowing down to the sun? But then we come back to the guy. The guy's 75 years old, and he still has no time for his wife and his children and his grandchildren because he's still bowing down to someplace on Wall Street. So he's smarter than the guy that's bowing down to the sun. In those days, it was the sun. They saw the sun was the core of life, and now people see money as the core of life. And this person spends his whole life bowing down to money. That's all it is. But it's the same. It's the same longing for a taste of something that's Ein Sof. People also will do that with like say, with thrills, with something exciting, to go and to do something crazy, even dangerous or exciting, to go beyond the limitations of the normal limitations of this world. So you see people like to go mountain climbing. What's the Indian of going mountain climbing? You have people that go mountain climbing. Every year they say, Nebuch, this past year, 223 people fell off a mountain somewhere. So why'd you go on the mountain? What do you need to do? Why are we doing that? Why don't you just take a plane if you want to go somewhere? Why are you climbing a mountain? What's the Indian of climbing a mountain? Mi Ya'ala B'Har Hashem. There's such a thing as Mi Ya'ala B'Har Hashem. So you have people that they feel that my tachlis in life is to get to the top of this mountain, to put a picture of my girlfriend on the mountain again. And I did something very, very heroic. And then all of civilization makes a big deal about this. They make movies and they make shows about what's courageous to go climbing. That's courageous. It's idiotic. It's idiotic. What are you risking your life to do? What? To be able to say that nobody else climbed this mountain? So what? But there's such a mentality that people have, and in different ways it affects. Like the thrill of doing something that's different, that's exciting, that thrill that you get, whatever it is, even if it's not so dangerous. But if it's dangerous, I've said this many times over the years. That I remember, we did the Cholamoy trip to Adventureland. I did it 11 times. I remember exactly. And each time, like taking different kids to the bathroom. I remember exactly where the bathroom was. In the arcade. You go to the end and you make a right. And so Adventureland. It's because the schools all made these, they raised money for the schools. For the yeshivas and the schools, they raised it. So we went to Adventureland. So my Suri, she's a big neshama in Suri. So I always went early because that's what you have to get there before the Hasidim come, right? You have to get there early, right when it opens. So when we got there very early, so there were no lines, and there was this crazy, scary ride where it goes high up, and then it drops you like it's crazy. Which I never liked any of these things, but Suri she went on it. I went with her. She went on it. She comes down. There's everybody screaming, She comes down. She runs back on the thing like with a wild look in her eyes. She goes back on the same line, and she was doing this like 3-4 times the same ride. Kids they like that. They repeat. So she's doing the same thing 3-4 times. And I said, and she had this look in her eyes. And I said, Suri, what is it? What do you like this so much? She said, Daddy, you don't understand. I almost died. She said, I almost died. It's gewaldig. I almost died. What is that Indian? That even a little kid, such an Indian, that like this is thrilling, this is exciting. It's a taste of something that's Ein Sof. That you're not held back by the normal restraints of what's safe. Safety means ruling, right? Safety means if you want to be safe, you go till here. And if you go past here, it's not safe. I want to go there. What for? It's not safe. That's a good place. It's not safe. I want to go to someplace that's not safe. Why not safe? Well, you have a person that dresses up like all kinds of crazy clothing. You see people walking around with pink and purple hair. You ever see such things? Like mohawks, purple mohawks. Besides that, there must be such deep psychological scars and problems with such people, but that they do that. But aside from everything that's psychologically wrong with them, But what is that Indian of? Because you want to break something that's a norm of society. A person goes in the street not dressed, half naked, is to do something that's anti-civilization, something that breaks down borders and boundaries. There's an unbelievable need for people to go past, like the police, to go past the boundaries. So when this girl puts on such an outfit, you say, how could a normal person, why would you want to go like that? What are you dressing like that? She doesn't understand it. She thinks it's fashionable, it's cool. This deep, deep Indian to break boundaries, to go outside. It all comes from the same Indian of wanting to come into contact with that which is infinite. The whole world's meshuggah for that. That which, if a person doesn't have kisuf and there's something not healthy, it's just how do you express that? I went with my wife and I was speaking years ago. I went to speak in Colorado. So it was a beautiful place, and we got a few days also to go around. It was very, very beautiful. You've been to Colorado, it's a beautiful place. So in Vail, Colorado. So we went, because there's a Lubavitcher Rebbe that has a program there. And we went for 3-4 days. It was beautiful. And I went with a couple. We took a couple of kids, and I took 2 of my nieces. And they have this thing where you go on. There's a mountain over here. There's a mountain over there, and they went sliding down this thing.
Zip line?
I don't know what it's called, but they went from this mountain to that mountain.
Zip line.
Okay, and I took the kids up there. My wife just stayed, and I took the kids up there, and it's not stum like you go, like in camp where they have like between one tree and another. You're there like it's thousands of feet, and it's wide open mountains and all this. It's beautiful, and the kids are going. They're little kids. They were little at the time. They were going up there, and they were saying, "Daddy, come with us. Daddy, come with us." Now I'm looking at this thing, and I'm saying, I'm not going on this. This is crazy. I said, "Come on, Daddy. Come on, Daddy. Come on, Daddy." So of course I went, and they're screaming like they're having the time of their lives. Having the time of their lives. This is like the greatest thing in the world, and it's like what this Indian is that people have from the time they were little. To just do something that you feel like nobody else does it. So, like the fascination with outer space. It's not an Indian of Ein Sof. Since I'm a little kid, it used to be a big thing when they went, Apollo and all these other things. The whole world was for this Indian. So they always told us, we always heard that in school they would say, because they're going to find stuff, they're bringing back all kinds of things. Maybe they found some stuff, I don't know if they found anything. It seems like a lot of money, very dangerous thing to do. They got a couple of rocks and to go on television. But what they were doing, maybe they found something that helps. I don't know. But I don't know what they found. They're going to find a cure for things. That's what they always told us. Could be, I don't know. Maybe they found all kinds of good things. Seems to me that they're just driving around over there with nothing. And maybe they found something. But what is it that people have with outer space? Because inner space is already like even when we're talking to some of the Chavre from the shul, like, we have to have a different program. As this we can't. So we did this last year. We have to do something different this year, and it has to be this, has to be that. All this need for ischadshus, which is understandable, but it comes from the same shorish. I can't bear boundaries and limitations, and anything that already was means there's a boundary, and that boundary says this is where you got to. I can't. I have to go past that. So this year has got to outdo last year. It's got to be something, because I have to break down that boundary from last year. That comes from the Ein Sof inside of us. It's the deepest part of who we are. And we don't understand it, but that's where it comes from. Chavaya Zulios Mishi Yochal Akol Mibchina Kasvis Hi Me'ein Chavaya Meduma Shel Ein Sof. It's Me'ein. It's a Chavaya. It's Me'ein, a copy, or some sort of, not a copy, a taste of, like a little bit of that Indian of Ein Sof, and each person in his way, in her way, needs to feel something somehow connected to come back to that place without boundaries. It's entirely free. Kamuvan, naturally, obviously, Zut ta'os amuka. This is a very, very deep mistake. We pay for it with our lives, mamish. Sometimes physically with our lives, like the people dropping off the mountains. But with our happiness and with everything else, we pay. It's a very big mistake. If a person would just be a physical creature, would just be a physical being, without an neshama, then that would be all that it would need is to be able to go and to move and to do it, whatever it wants. If there wouldn't be a neshama, that would be fine. And therefore, on some level, there are people in the world that are far from ruchnius and that have very, very, very faint, very weak nefesh, ruch, neshama, and for them, they could be very, very happy with that yicholis of having some more physical things and some more toys and so on. Just like a child could be, you have a child that's screaming and yelling and carrying on a whole thing. You take some little tchotchke, you give the kid the charge, and all of a sudden he's happy because he has a very limited understanding, a very small degree of soul that's been released into him. He doesn't have that connection to the soul. So he's all upset, he's angry because he wanted to go here and he's kicking and screaming and he's having a whole tantrum. And you go over to him, you give him and say, oh, look, you give him a little toy and all of a sudden, and he runs off and he's happy. There's a shaitu kind of things. You wanted something chashiv and you settled for something like this. The terrace is, okay, he has very limited needs and expectations. And if you give him, then he's happy and finished. For most people, people who are bigger people don't have such limitations. The human being is much greater than that. The human being is much greater. Yesh lo nefesh. Even someone that's not Jewish is a nefesh. Therefore, a healthy human being wants desperately to be loved and to be able to give love. It's a natural, healthy instinct. To be oheves v'ahuva, to love and to get love back. So even if you're not meshugah with things of this world, so you don't need to have the big house and the chashuv job, but you want to have, emotionally you have needs. You want to have connections to people. You want that. It's very, very deep need. The people you want to. You're not interested in acquiring another building or two, but you want to acquire friends. You want to have friends. That satisfies a very deep emotional need. You have people that snore for money. You have people that snore for friendship. It's all different schnorrers. We're all schnorrers. Schnorr means a beggar of any of you not know. It means everybody's begging. This one's begging for money. This one's begging for appreciation. This one's begging for admiration. This one's begging for fame or fortune. Whatever it is, everybody's a schnorrer. The question of the need to beg and to look for and to want comes from the neshama. It all depends on who you are and what your limitations are. So a little child is one thing, and an adult has other things that will break down the boundary of what's considered to be some sort of a limitation. Adam sheyesh bo, I have the next page. Adam bal ayin toiva, Adam ninoch mesav, a person that loves, a person that's ayin toiva, a person that's tolerant, and so on. Adam lo pachas me'mishav makasper. People want these good characteristics, these good traits, and it's a wonderful thing. People want all these good things. Hayicholis ein sofis pliya behem lo pachas me'sheva kesef. And for many wonderful people, these emotional needs are as strong as what other people have for money. This is already somebody who's on a higher level, much higher level, where the needs are more ruchniistic, they're more from the nefesh, that have to do with emotions and loving and caring and connecting and so on. It's a much higher madrega, but it could be just as strong a need as somebody has some money. There are people who are so emotionally needy that they're sicker than the people who are crazy for money. When you know somebody that's emotionally very needy, it's very unhealthy, and it's in many ways worse than the person who needs more money. It's worse. Rav Yosef, sometimes these needs, emotional needs, are stronger than for money. And the truth is that someone who's conceited, or somebody who has a kasan, has a bad temper, is mugbal ma'od. He's very, very constrained and very limited because he can't help himself. If you tell the guy, "What are you getting so angry about this?" He's like, "I can't help myself." That means he has a very strong boundary. Because he doesn't feel happy about this. Why are you yelling at everybody? He doesn't feel good about it, but he can't control himself. Not being able to control yourself means the opposite of freedom. It means that you're restrained by this midah. Therefore, it's natural that good people have an infinite longing to be, not to be restrained by anger, but to be able to be calm, to be able to be nice. The higher the person, the more noble the longing. So here there's an emotional, deep, even somewhat spiritual longing to be a person that doesn't get angry because he feels and she feels that the anger is limiting his life. It's just a limitation. It's a boundary, and they don't want to be held back by that. Same thing with the guy with conceit. So on, all the bad midas. Every bad midah is a gvul. Every negative characteristic, every negative midah creates certain boundaries, and a person doesn't want to have those boundaries. You want to be able to be free, to be kind, to be good, and to express yourself in a nice way, not to scream and to yell and to carry on. You want to be free, it's a limitation, it's a boundary. But this can become something which enslaves you as well. Because that emotional need that you have, which in itself is a nice thing, but that emotional need that you have means that you are dependent on what people think about you, for instance. Someone that has very bad feelings about himself and is desperate for attention, is desperate for appreciation. So that person is a slave, is enslaved to other people. So you have people that are enslaved to get a compliment. Well, there's somebody that if he didn't say good Shabbos to them, he's never coming to that shul again. What happened to you? They didn't say good Shabbos to you. Finished. What happened? Such a thing. It's an avla. How could that person do such an avla? Such an injustice that they didn't say good Shabbos to me. That's it. That you need that good Shabbos so badly? You can't live without that good Shabbos? What's the matter with you? Teretz is that he's a schnorrer for a good Shabbos. And if he doesn't get it, so the emotional need, so he needs what? He needs people to be friendly to him. He needs people to recognize him. And you walk past the guy, oh, forget it. Or if he was helping with something in shul, and the rabbi gets up and says, I want to thank Moshe, I want to thank Yankee, I want to thank Rachel and Sarah, I want to thank, and the guy's sitting there waiting for his name, right? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what this Indian is. See? And usually what will happen is that the wife will come over at some point and say, my husband felt very, very bad. After all, he did put in a lot of time. And he felt very hurt that you didn't remember him, that you didn't think of him. Sorry, I forgot. Next time I won't forget. But the person sits there and waits to hear the name. And then you have other people that they don't want no one should hear the name. That could also be a certain kind of a neediness. Life is complicated. But you could become enslaved so easily to different things. Because sometimes, so let's say you have the other way. So the rabbi does announce the name, and then the guy gets all upset. I asked you not to say my name. I didn't want to have my name. So okay, so I made a mistake. I announced you. And next time, I'll make believe you don't exist. Also, what are you getting so verhitzt about that? I didn't announce your name. If you're ever thinking about becoming a rabbi, it's like one of the most annoying things is keeping a cheshbon of he does like to be mentioned. He does like you have to keep a cheshbon of everybody's sensitivities, and if you didn't get it right, and coming back to they might not daven again. I don't know what. This guy's not going to put on tefillin if I didn't remember him or something. Everything is with such a cheshbon. But people have the neediness expectations, and we all have that, all of us. Each person in a different way. It's fun to laugh at other people. We have ourselves. All of us have this Inyan, and you become enslaved. You push it a slave. Because what you need, you're not getting. And you're depending upon the other to get something. So that means you're a schnar. You're depending upon somebody else. The same way if you're depending upon, if your happiness depends upon you getting a certain thrill or fulfilling a certain taiva desire for something to eat or a physical pleasure of some sort, so you're not free. But all the shurish, the root, the shurish of all of this comes from Ein Sof, that which is infinite. And infinite means no one tells me, stop here. No one tells me I can't. I must, I have to. No one can stop me. That is a healthy instinct that comes from a very holy place. But again, it's broadcast into each person's life according to the person's kelim. So the person's kelim are very, very immature or very weak. It comes out in an embarrassing and embarrassing and silly way. It's just very, very embarrassing and silly. And a person doesn't see it in himself very often. They don't see it in themselves. Sometimes when they're honest with them, they see it, but otherwise no, what do you mean? This comes to me, this is coming to me, and you know, they don't see it. It's just very embarrassing. Other people see it, and they don't see themselves. But the bottom line is, this person is mugbal ma'od. We all have these limitations, not by walls, not by being in a jail or in a tunnel, but the limitations, the gvulim of the world, whatever those gvulim are that you're living in. Because as you know, that you could be sitting someplace in a jail and you're the freest person in the world. And you could be the freest person in the world and you're sitting in a jail. That's how it is. It's not a matter of where you are. Those people, the people are always blaming everybody for their sorrows and their problems. It makes no difference. Wherever you would be, you would still be complaining. You're the same. That's who you are. And you're imprisoned in this life of expectations that are not met and all the gevulim, the disappointments, and therefore you can blame your mother, you can blame your father, you can blame the world, you can blame everybody, you can blame Hashem. But the Messias is that you created these own boundaries, these walls, and you're miserable living in that prison. And whoever is connected to you is usually miserable also. You make the person miserable. With your inyanim, you make the person miserable. You have this in marriages, this expectations, all things that this one, but he expects, and she expects, especially when it comes to inyanim, that are more intimate, all kinds of things that go on between people, and they to try to take away the limitations, and he should feel ani achol, and she doesn't want, and he wants. It's all this, without being graphic, what goes on with couples with this inyan of beina lebeina, what goes into the inyan of intimacy with husbands and wives. It goes on the machlokes, the fight, the anger, the disappointment, the rage, the loss of respect and the dignity that goes on. All comes from this inyan. You made a border, you created a boundary that I didn't want. And you're telling me, ataloyachol. And that feeling of loss of freedom is unbearable. Why is it unbearable? Because it separates you from Ein Sof. It separates you from that which is infinite. But you don't know that what you're hurting you is really being separated from the infinite one himself. That's what's really hurting you. You think that this is what's the cause of my pain. She's no good, she's like this, he's like this, he's like that. It's all levushim, it's all achashverosh, it's all Purim, Esther, it's all Purim. That's not what it is. Just like everything that was happening in the Megillah, that wasn't the real story. What was happening in the Megillah was not the real story. And you see that with every marriage, what's happening with this husband and wife, that's not the real story. That's just not the real story. Oftentimes the real story is behind closed doors where nobody knows about. That's where the real story is. And when that comes out, it's always the same inyan. Shnarai, being a shnar. It's the same inyan of not being able to bear being told no, or not now. That is that gvul that a person can't stand, and that that inability to bear the gevulim of our lives and the need to go something which is beyond the gevul. Because all the fascination comes for looking at the horrible things or disgusting things. So where does it come such a thing? That why would a normal person look at these things and to see these things? And it's don't tell me that I can't. I can. It's a tremendous need. Now, where did this all begin? This all began in Gan Eden, and that's the Torah. That's the Torah that you have in front of you. We'll just start. We'll come back to the keep the place in Ayaka. But here, this is Rav Kook's greatest Talmud. Rav Yaakov Moshe Chalab, Chusi Gerleina. And this is the Torah on Shabbos Shuvah that the Tzaddik said. And this will help us to understand on a deeper level what's going on, what we're learning. And then when we come back, we'll have a much greater appreciation. So we'll start a little bit. So, Eino Eimer, it says, Shuvi Yisrael Ad Hashem Elokecha. We're not going to actually get to the Pshat in the Pasuk because that's at the end of this Torah. It's many pages, but he's going on what we read on Shabbos Shuvah from the Navi Hosea. It says Shuvi Yisrael Ad Hashem Elokecha, and the Mefarshim, yes, who knows? Return Ad Hashem Elokecha. Ad until you reach. It doesn't say Shuvi Yisrael El. It doesn't say return to God. The Navi is saying to Am Yisrael, return. The Navi doesn't say return to Hashem. He says return until Hashem. It's interesting. Then it says K'hui Machem Dvarim V'shuvu El Hashem. So that's what the tzaddik is going on. That interesting switch of Ad Hashem Elokecha until Hashem. El Hashem. Right afterwards it says in the pasuk K'hui Machem Dvarim. Take with you words. It's vidui and whatever. V'shuvu, then it says El Hashem. Then it says El Hashem. So first it says Ad Hashem, and then it says El Hashem. You have stumbled, you have failed in your sin. Why say your sin? Instead, you should say you have fallen into sins. It sounds like there's some particular sin of the Jewish people that the Navi is talking about. He says, if the Navi just wanted to say that Am Yisrael, you guys did a lot of sins this year, and the Navi is saying you did a lot of sins, it should just say, Shuv Yisrael, ki kashalta ba'avonos. You did a lot of sins. It doesn't say that. Shuv Yisrael, it's talking to the whole Jewish people, ki kashalta ba'avonecha, in your sin. Sounds like that the Navi is talking about one particular, like there's an Indian. Your sin. Avonech, not avonos. Sins. Avonecha. That knows that Am Yisrael has one particular sin that is the root of all of our sins. That's what the Navi is saying. In other words, the Navi is saying, I want to explain to you something. All of you are doing different averos. But I want to tell you what's the underlying sin. In other words, what is it in your lives that is behind all of the averos that you're doing, big and small? There's something which is called avonecha, which is the sin of the Jewish people. Avonecha. That's the question he asks. There's some particular unique sin. The same way there's some unique and special kedusha, holiness that the Jewish people have. Is kilu, there's some unique and special anti-holiness that we have. That's different from, that's unique, that's different. Because shalta b'avanech. And Rabbi Yaakov Moshe says, Omnam Kainhu. Yes, it's true. Kainhu. Kol achatoim sheba'olam, all the sins that we do in the world, nimshachim mishorshay chet gadol. They all come from the shorish, the root of one big chet, one big sin, which is Adam and Chava, right? Umimenu kol ha'anofim shalakishloinish and echshalim b'chatoim avonis b'shaim. And from that one big chet, from that root, all of the branches, all the trees and forests of sins grow. The shorish is the chet hakodem, is the sin in Gan Eden. Shachet eitz hadas. Uma haya oifi shel hachet hahu. And what was that? What's the pneumius of that chet? What happened? Because if we understand the shorish, then we can heal the root. Then, mimela, the branches, the flowers, the forests, and all that stuff falls away. You're able to heal. If you get to the root, same thing. You have a problem. Somebody can help you with a symptom, but if they don't get to the root of why is it that you're having this, why do you have this pain? Why is this hurting? Why is it hurting you? So they can give you a little bit of pain medicine that covers up the pain, but it doesn't mean the doctor got to the shirish. If you get to the shirish, then the person's not going to have any pain. You don't have to give him medicine. So the shirish of all sins is in Eitz Hadas, is in Adam Echava. And if you know what that is, and you think about it, and you work on healing that, then we won't do any other Averos. All the other Averos, because they just fall away. Because once you uproot the shirish of the Avera, then no Averos can grow. If there's no root, there's no tree, there's no branches, nothing can grow. So if you get rid of the root, if you uproot, if we can get to the root of chet, and we uproot that chet, then we've solved the problem of Averos. That's what Tshuva is about. Tshuva means to return to the state of Adam and Chava before they ate from the tree. That's what Tshuva means. Tshuva always means that. It means not repentance. That's a Goyish word. It means return. Return to what? Return to what it was before the tree. That's get back to the shorish, to the root, before you indulged in that primordial mistake that is the root of all future mistakes of everybody in the world. Get back to that place. Get back to that place before. That's the whole avodah of tshuva. Okay, we'll get to work on the answer next episode.
All right.